So as we always do, welcome to Spiritist Conversations, where we have an informal conversations with friends, unscripted, unplugged. Today we're here in the Spiritist Society of Chicago, celebrating the 10th anniversary, which is an incredible milestone. Very, very woohoo. It's like we have a live audience. We've never done this before.
I know, that's new, that's awesome. Yeah.
So it's like, now we know that at least like 10 people listen to this, right? Because we always joke, at least I always joke that there's like 3 listeners out there. They're only people who listen to us. My mom and 2 more, kind of thing. But we're very excited to be here today to celebrate 10 years of the Spirit Society of Chicago. And we figured it would be a wonderful opportunity to take questions from the crowd, but also to talk about what is a Spiritist Center, right? And so we had some conversations earlier today about that, about this beautiful labor of love that has taken place here for 10 years. And I'm a little bit wowed by the fact that we're indoors, warm, a guy from California, a gal from Miami, and there's snow out there and we can see it. And we're like, oh, okay. But I want to let you have a second here to also know who else you're listening to today. So I'm Dan. I live in California, and I'm really excited to be here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Suzana, and I am from Miami. And I'm also very excited to be here. It's the first time that I'm speaking today. So let me just take a second to congratulate you all in the celebration of the 10th anniversary. I was here 2 years ago, I believe, in 2016. So it's been a long time, but I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this. And just excited to be here with Daniel as well, participating with that, and Daniel and Daniela, Dan, double Dan, and I'm right in the middle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniela, and I live here in Chicago, and I participate here at the Spiritist Society of Chicago, which I'm very happy about. And I'd like to give a big thanks to Suzana and Daniel for being here with us today and for all the support throughout the 10 years that we are here. Daniel has been physically here more times than Suzana, but Suzana has been with us throughout this whole journey, really helping us, guiding, and providing fraternal assistance every time we need. Just call her. She's a wonderful provider of fraternal assistance. Doesn't have much time to talk, so I'm not going to put you on.
Yeah,
But call Suzana if you need.
My number is? No.
So, thank you for being here with us. So we're very happy to be together, and let's talk about the Spiritist Center, right?
All right.
So,
So what is a Spiritist Center? Right? It's a place that we come together in to do Spiritism, to grow individually. And it's kind of hard to tell you exactly what it is because no Spiritist Center is alike, right? Just like Spiritism tells us that we need to find our own path and grow in learning in general, each Spiritist Center may look different and may have different activities because the group that got together there decides that they want to focus on this or on that, which I think is somewhat confusing sometimes for people because you never know what you're going to get in the sense of, some people have a meeting that might be 30 minutes long, and other one must be an hour and a half long, and some of them have prayers in the beginning, and some of them have prayers in the beginning and the end, and some, so it really depends. So we always encourage people to get to know their Spiritist Center and find one that fits their personality and their style. And so the key thing for me is a place where we come to learn and practice Spiritism. What I think is most beautiful about it is that no one in a Spiritist Center is ever making money off of it. It's a completely 101% voluntary endeavor. I say 101% because most of the times we are coming here working and we are helping sustain it financially. So it's actually sometimes expensive to be a Spiritist because you end up like working and paying for it. But somehow we end up happy about it, right? Which is questionable at best, right? But then again, this is where we are. So what else, Suzana? What do you think is noteworthy and interesting for us in general?
I agree with you. I think I'm a little poor being a spiritist
know, right?
because you plan the events, right? You raise money, then you buy the merchandise, and then during the event you buy the merchandise that you bought to provide. Isn't that like something like that? Okay. But I think one aspect that's really important to remember, and sometimes as we enter the Spiritist Center and become a worker, and the Spiritist Center becomes part of our day-to-day, right, lives, is to remember that the Spiritist Center is a lot more than the physical realm that we see, that we touch, and that we deal with on a day-to-day. Not too long ago, I was talking to a group of Americans who go to our center, and I mentioned to them that that space, the space of the Spiritist Center, is a divine space. And it was interesting because one of the participants, he was really struck by this statement, and he's studying with us, and he started to do some lectures, and he's very excited about the Spiritism. And so as people comes into the Spiritist Center, he reminds them. He says, hey, remember, this is a divine place, you know, so it's a sacred space. And sometimes we lose a little bit sight of that. So this is a temple, a physical space for connection with one another. Yes, I think Spiritist centers do a better service if they are joyful places, places where we can be with one another, like Daniel have said, share, nourish our souls through our physical and social contact. But there is a lot of things that go on that we don't see, that require a position of respect and an awareness. So, you know, when we enter a hospital and people are being treated, right? You can talk, you can smile, but you don't yell. You behave in appropriate ways to favor all the healing that is going on in that place. And the Spiritist Center is very much like this. So sometimes we forget, for instance, that during our public meetings, right, there's a lot of healing taking place. When we study the works of Andrew Lewis, we learn that during these meetings, these are very favorable moments where, because we come in here and we change our frequency, as we attune to what's being said, from a frequency of our daily lives and our daily concerns, we come here, we attune to a higher message that really puts us in a position. It's kind of a pre-op. You know, it prepares us for the interventions that are often done in our pure spirits, in our energetic beings throughout. A lot of people put an incredible emphasis on the work of passes, which have their place, and for sure. But they forget that during the public meetings, you know, we are being attended. A lot of people are very concerned about becoming mediums and participating in mediums group. And they forget, for example, that if you are selling the book right there to someone, and you are attuned to what a Spiritist Center truly is, you know that the good spirits are right there with you. And if you are in a position of service and attunement, the person comes to you and said, you know, I'm very depressed. I need something that can help me. And the spirits will tell you which book will best serve the person in that moment, right? So there are all these aspects, Daniel, that a lot of times we tend to get a little distracted and underestimate, perhaps, the importance of our behavior and the awareness of what a Spiritist Center truly is.
Yeah, no doubt. And that leads me to, you got me going here. Suzana, because you're talking about the activities and everything else. And maybe one thing that we can talk to is what kind of activities, what kind of different activities take place in a Spiritist group, right? So Suzana just talked about two at least, right? She talked about the public meetings where we have here, and you just can come and be a part of this. Again, there's no charge ever to be part of a Spiritist group, right? So what we generally have in the Spiritist groups, I think one thing that's kind of common is there will be a talk at one point in time of somebody trying to explain a little bit about what Spiritism is or what it teaches us, right? And if you're listening to this, chances are you have an inkling, right? But we can talk more about what Spiritism is some other time. So you have that. And then Suzana also mentioned mediumship, right? Which is something that a lot of people want to understand. They want to become mediums. They want to be able to more fully actively register the presence of the spiritual world and connect with the spirits. And sometimes we forget that we're all spirits, so we're already connecting with each other. So at the end of the day, there should be no distinction whether the spirit's wearing clothes, right, physical body or not. But there's that. So we also study mediumship oftentimes in the Spiritist group because Spiritism offers particular insights about mediumship in general, right? Maybe a topic for another conversation. Which is another thing we do. We have these conversations and we say, oh, a topic for another one, and we never go back, but we need to do that.
That's right.
And so there's the talks, there's the mediumship. She also talked about passes, right, which is basically a laying of hands that helps us rebalance our energies. What are the kind of things you can think of?
Daniela talked about fraternal counseling.
Oh, yeah, fraternal counseling.
Right?
Danny, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, before going to fraternal assistance, going with what you mentioned you emphasized in your talk, and what Suzana mentioned, the importance of knowledge, right, of studying. So in order to understand what a Spiritist center is, what exactly that we do here, right, what all these aspects that Suzana mentioned of the spiritual side, how we interact with the spiritual side. So we have all the resources that Spiritist offers us, starting with the foundation, which Allan Kardec brings us, and all the books by Andrea Lewis and other very important material that gives us this foundation, this knowledge, right, that we need in order to truly understand and benefit, right, of what happens here at the Spiritist Center. So, and fraternal assistance is nothing more than a dialogue, really, a conversation, right? There are trainings that the volunteers go through to be better prepared, qualified to provide this service. That is one of the activities at the Spiritist Center. And as Daniel mentioned, all activities are free of charge, and there is no catch. Right? It's important to mention that. And fraternal assistance is one of them, right?
Actually, can I chime in really quickly here?
Sure.
Did we say that all activities are no charge? Yeah, but feel free to donate money to your Spiritist Center because the group needs. You got to pay rent. Just want to make sure, like, no charge. Yeah, you don't need to pay anything, but somebody's got to, right? So if you can, and if you can help, look for somebody and say, hey, can I help? Because, there's rent, there's water, there's, everything else that takes. Oh, Chicago, there must be heating too.
Yes.
Ooh, I don't know what that bill looks like. I think our equivalent is the AC bill. You guys are probably the heating bill. But anyways, just want to point it out there. Just because it's no charge doesn't mean you can't help financially, right?
Thank you, Daniel. So again, it's a conversation. The trained volunteers will sit down with whoever feels that perhaps they're going through a moment of facing some challenge and would like to have an understanding of a different perspective, right? Because we many times can reach some roadblocks in our lives, and so it's what we provide. So it's not a session of therapy. It's not a psychological session, right? But it's a therapeutic in a sense that we sit and we have a conversation and trying to understand and bring some light and on whatever the issues where we may be facing from the spiritual perspective, right? So, and it's also very important to mention that all of that is done with confidentiality. Thank you. And so it's right. We don't leave the fraternal assistants sharing with everyone what happens in the session, right? So that's important too.
Yeah, I wanted to just mention something, because I said fraternal counseling, and fraternal assistance is a better term, because we are not counselors. We don't do counseling in any professional way. It's kind of a habit of language more than anything else, but I think that's an important distinction to be made. And Daniel started talking about how the Spiritist centers can be and can look very differently. So how about, I mean, if we share a little bit of what our Spiritist centers provide, so people can have a sense of like how different the activities can be.
Great.
Do you want to start?
Sure, sure. Yes, I think I should also say here that you don't have to go to a Spiritist center, right, to learn Spiritism. You can do that at home. As a matter of fact, I never really went to a Spiritist center until I was probably like 25 years old, because a lot of my Spiritist upbringing was reading and talking to my parents at home about things, right? But it's a wonderful idea to go to a Spiritist group, because you can interact with other people, right? And so when I was a little bit older, I was by myself. You know, it was great to go talk to people who have the same interests. But so for me out there in San Diego, I am more active in, and there's 3 groups in San Diego. Every once in a while I try to kind of go around and visit folks. But for our group, the Spirit Society of San Diego, we're a very small group, and we do all our activities in English, and we're like a room like this size, right? And what we do have is we have a lot of focus on the study groups. It's kind of like our bread and butter. We do mediumship as well, so we have 2 mediumistic groups with a 3rd one studying. Even though we're kind of small, we tend to kind of lean towards that just because it kind of happened. And we do study groups for the different books, right? Starting with the codification, Spirit's book, and everything else. And then we have 2 public activities that we call, one of them are Therapeutic Tuesdays, which is a 30-minute or 20-minute talk about, you know, a topic. Generally is a chapter of the Gospels according to Spiritism, something uplifting that helps us understand. Then we have a little guided meditation for another 5 to 10 minutes. Then we have passes, and that's it for Tuesday. In 45 minutes, we're kind of done. We're doing the same on Sundays. We started a new activity on Sundays because folks wanted to do the weekend. So it's kind of similar too. But the bulk of our part is like small study groups, right? Which is, you know, a little bit different than than Suzana's group is. Because they have a lot more activities going on. I think she should tell you.
Well, I'm also in Miami, and we have a huge community of Brazilians in Miami. So our group is a 12-year-old group right now. We hold 3 public meetings, 2 in Portuguese, because we had 1 public meeting in Portuguese, but we had about 120 people. And so we had to split in 2 different days to accommodate everybody. So now we have Mondays and Tuesdays, and Sundays we have our public meetings in English. We also hold right now about 8 different study groups. We have study groups before our public meetings on Mondays. We have 3 different groups studying 3 different books of the codification. Actually 2 groups, and Tuesday 3 groups. Wednesdays we have groups in English. So we have a group that studies the gospel right now, and then we have a group who is studying and developing mediumship. And this group does that study 2 times a month, and the other 2 times they are studying the works of Andrew Lewis. And then on Sundays we have another study group in English before our public meeting. So we have grown quite a bit. We also have once a month a welcoming meeting for new people who are at the center, so that the center is introduced to them, as well as Spiritism. So they come in, right? So they come in and we announce that meeting throughout our public meetings, and we say every second Tuesday, every second Sunday and Monday of the month, we have parallel to our public meetings a small group. So we have a person who sits with them and say, this is what we are, this is what we stand for, and these are the basic principles of Spiritism. Andrea and Marcelo are from Miami. They have recorded a really nice video that it's available, What is Spiritism? So we play that. It's a short and very well done video. So that's another activity that we have. And the other important component is the charity work, right? So we have developed more recently. We're starting to visit places and things like that. But what we do, our group is not so characterized by that as other groups are. So instead of creating our own charity work, we support other groups in what they do.
Great.
So she's asking how long are the sessions for the newcomers. It's the length of the public meeting. So while the public meeting is going on, which is usually an hour, we separate those people and just sit with them and have for that same length of time. Mm-hmm.
Say your name.
Right. My name is Monica, and I'm interested in knowing. Imagine I've never been, and I'm listening to this, and I'm afraid of spirits. So I'm afraid what I'm going to find. So I would like you to talk a little bit about if I come for the first time, what's going to happen? And second question is, if I'm interested, where do I find a Spiritist center? How do I figure out if there is one close where I live that I could go to?
All right. So how do I find a group?
I'm afraid of spirits too.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, ooh. Let's take the easiest one. Like, how do I find a group? So you Google it, right? And we actually have a project that I'm working on to actually map groups, but that's for the future. But I think that's number one. I think that the other thing, what's going to happen? Like, honestly, nothing exceptional is going to happen, right? The Spiritist group is not a place where you come in and there's going to be Spiritist communication for you, right? A lot of people actually come looking for that and say, hey, can I get a message from the spirits? And that's why I'm here. Where do I see the spirits that showed up? Show me where they are, right? I'm going to tell you that a vast majority of Spiritist groups are going to say, nice, that's wonderful that you want to know more. Have you read anything? Here's a book. Do you want to sit down and listen to a little bit about how it happens, right? So they are not... Spiritist groups are not phenomena-based, right? They are not a place for you to witness the phenomena. They're a place for you to understand Spiritism, and that means understand who you are and kind of work on yourself. Of course, the phenomena also takes place there, but for you to witness the phenomena and understand how it works, you first need to get a grip of what it is, because it's a difficult thing to have a mediumship meeting. It requires a team effort. There's all different kinds of things that go into it that it's important for us to be acquainted with and understood. Also puts you a little bit on the spot, right? Like anytime that somebody comes and says, you're so funny, tell me a joke, right? Like it puts you in the spot. The same thing with a medium, right? It's a little bit of the monkey dance, right? Like now you will talk to the spirits and give me a message. It doesn't happen that way, right? Most of the time, right? There's some exceptions, but so nothing exceptional is going to happen from a like splash. But something exceptional will happen is maybe you'll find some nourishment and some answers, and maybe you start making more sense of the world around us. And I think that's the real miracle. But let's ask these folks over here.
Yeah, you Google it. I would like to mention the United States Spiritist Federation. Okay, so there is a federation. There are a few federations in this country. The Spiritist Federation of Florida, the Tri-State. Now we have different groups that are coming together in associations in California, in Maryland. But the U.S. Spiritist Federation, Georgia as well, and But you know, if you go to the website of the U.S. Spiritist Federation, all the affiliated centers to the federation are listed over there by state. So that's a place to find. I would like to mention the United States Spiritist Federation and thank them for their support for this event as well, as they are sponsoring my trip here. And so, but you know, it's interesting, the question about the spirits, right? And I cannot tell you how many phone calls that I get from people who are, you know, they either afraid or they are actually wanting to see the spirits and to get messages, and that's a big pull for people to come to the Spiritist Center. I remember doing fraternal counseling with one person, and she's asking me, but you know, can I talk to the spirits? And I look at her very seriously and I said, you are talking to a spirit right now in front of you. Yeah. And you know, and then I am a spirit. And then I said to her, and the spirits are also right here next to me. And believe it or not, I can hear them. And she looked at me, and you know, I wasn't really hearing them, but you know, every time you were doing any service for the good of others, right, as well as for the bad of others, because mediumship is a neutral possibility. So the connection, it's within the laws of the universe, right? So we're connecting by frequency. So it can really go either way. But so what I told her is that the spirits are here. They are, you know, we are working through what's called intuitive mediumship. And they're always working right next to us. And, but I just remember because, she, you know, I never forget this because she made a face like, you know, you are talking to a spirit.
And I should say, when Suzana says they're always next to us, it's not us, it's
everybody.
Us, everybody over here. So you're also part of that, or that piece, right? Danny, you want to say something, or do you want to toss some questions out there? Well, anything else that you guys might want to ask or add into the conversation?
So I have children, and I'm wondering how can they be part of this process of coming to the center? Are they welcome, or it's only for adults? How does it work?
Children cannot be part of this. We think that spirituality is not for children. They have no place in the world. Actually, we don't know why children are there. No, absolutely, children are great.
Daniel, she's scaring the girl over there. She's looking at her mom like, is he serious? Can you please?
Well, she's now awake. I've done my job. I've done my job. She's like, like, all of a sudden, right? You were like, oh, wait, hold on a second here. But then it doesn't apply to her because she's like grown up.
Yeah.
She's basically a mini adult, right? Absolutely, there is a place. I think that you need to talk to the different groups, and actually, they have a lot of activities for kids sometimes, and it varies from like just hanging out while the talk is happening to actually like little study groups and things too. But fundamentally, yes, because for us Spiritists, we recognize that we are spirits, right? We are not the physical body. So children are just spirits who are in a smaller body, right? But they are full-blown spirits just like us. They're just getting the hang of things. And as they grow up and mature, they come into their full selves. So absolutely, we want to include children in our daily thinking about spirituality as a whole, because when Spiritism starts to get a hold of you, it transforms the way you look, and you look at everybody as a spirit. Everybody is a work in progress, right? So.
Yeah, in fact, in Spiritism, there is an incredible emphasis on the education of our children and the youth, because we know that this is a phase where, before adolescence, their personality is not entirely in yet, and so it gives an incredible period where they can be influenced. And so it's a very, very important phase that we have to tap in as educators, as parents. So Daniel said that most of his Spiritist education was done at home. I had quite a bit of that, although I think I was pretty much born inside the Spiritist Center. So It's just almost, because my whole family, I mean, my experience has been in the Spiritist Center from the very beginning. And I was just speaking recently in Brazil, and I started my lecture by recognizing the presence of my mom, who was in the audience with me, and encouraging the public to educate, to not, because a lot of times we prioritize so much the intellectual education of our children. We are so incredibly concerned about the schools that they are going, and the 175 activities that they do before and after school. But yet it's difficult for us to find time and to prioritize the moral education and bring to the Spiritist Center, you know. And this is, I feel like, you know, my mom have left me everything that I needed. I don't really need anything else, you know what I mean? Because once I have the foundation, the faith, the understanding, the study, I have the inner structure to travel through my life with the resources. What makes the difference between people is not that some have an easier life than others. We all have challenges. What makes the difference is which resources do you have within yourself to deal with the challenges of life. So this is the best gift you can give to your children. And the Spiritist Center play a huge role on that. They should, anyway. Of course, like we've been talking here, we have different places, we have different physical possibilities. You know, at our center now, we have a work on Sunday, we have work on Tuesday for the youth, because it's 8 o'clock at night, so the youth goes during the weekdays. And Sundays, our meetings are at 11 a.m., so we try to get more of the children, the families, kind of replicating the church model. Sunday families go together, and that's what we are able to provide over there.
It's fantastic. As you mentioned about your mom, it just made me think about my own experience. I started attending a Spiritist Center. I was 11 years old, and I cannot say how grateful I am for my parents for allowing me, because my parents were actually practicing Catholics, but they were absolutely open-minded and supportive when I made the choice at 11 years old, you know, to go to start attending a Spiritist Center and start attending the youth programs that they had there. So, of course, in Brazil, we have the many more Spiritist centers, right, almost in every city. And I had one literally on the block that I live. So I was 11 and I could walk there by myself. So it's a bit different, our reality, right? But so it's extremely important for the groups to provide those opportunities, right?
So really quickly, just want to point out something very important, not so much. So this one was almost born in a Spiritist Center. This one at 11 wanted a Spiritist Center. At 11, I wanted to be a ninja. So clearly, we're at very different levels here. So I'm going to hang out with you guys. But all jokes aside, we are coming up on our time, and we want to be mindful of that, and because there's more things coming up. But this is what we do. We just stir up the conversation, and we hope that you will continue this conversation wherever you may be, and have conversations with your friends. Have conversations about what is your group like? What else should your group do? We're celebrating 10 years of the Spirit Society of Chicago today. They didn't start this way. They have different things. They change through time. Talk to each other. There are many other groups here. We're also very happy that our folks from the Spirit Society of Illinois are also here today, a sister organization, so we want to give them a shout out. Check the Spirit Society of Chicago out. Check the Spirit Society of Illinois out as well. You know, if you're out there in Iowa, you know, there's people here who might want to start a group there, so also chime in, let us know. But we want to just do a wrap around here and ask Daniela and Suzana, what is your favorite thing about Spiritist Center? What are the last thoughts that you might want to leave to those who may be listening?
I may be very biased, but I love everything about the Spiritist Center, but I especially love the connections, the people connection, right? The relationships that all the richness that comes with getting to know one another and supporting one another in our journey. So, but everything is great. What's not to love about the Spiritist Center, right? When you start studying Kardec and you fall in love, and Andrea Lewis and all the wonderful knowledge, and so I love everything, really.
You were many, many years ahead of me, because I have a theory that if you want to do a PhD in people management and relationships and become really good at it, as if it's not enough to go to work every day and deal with that society and then go home, deal with that society, then you choose to come to the Spiritist Center, where there's a whole bunch of people that are somewhat dysfunctional and try to make these relationships work. So I don't know if that is my favorite part, although I love everybody. So I'm just like, somebody told me yesterday that loved me, but for my transparency, I'm being very transparent. I think that that's one of the major challenges that we find in the Spiritist movement, and I'm going to talk about that, is relating, right? We are awesome about doing talks. We are awesome in our charitable work, and we are like okay in the realm of relationships. But yes, I do love that too. It's a joke. I mean, I do have in the Spiritist Center my spiritual family, and you know, it's hard to imagine my life without them. But for me, the most fascinating aspect of the Spiritist Center and what the Spiritist Center and Spiritism offers is the miracle of transformation. Is to witness someone to walk in completely destroyed, completely devastated, and completely without faith, in a position of scarcity and need, and see the journey of that person from someone who doesn't think that has anything to offer and need to receive, to become someone who understands and become aware that he or she too has something to offer to the world. And so the empowerment that comes with the journey within the Spiritist Center. And along with that, one of the most fascinating and seducing things about Spiritism is that Spiritism puts the power of happiness within one's hands again. So you believe through the study of Spiritism in the Spiritist Centers that you learn that the power for happiness lies within you. You don't need really anything else. It's all within you. So, you know, I think it's a huge shift. It's a gift. It's a gift that we get from this experience in the Spiritism brings, but the Spiritist Center facilitates, right? So it's the place where you can read, but you know, when you come together to study, to discuss, that reading goes at a much, you know, takes a much deeper level. Yep. Yeah? And you gather the experience and the point of view of others, so it really adds to your learning and your experience. How about you?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I don't think I can do better than that or add anything
Probably
else.
not.
Probably not. For sure not. So I just want to just echo the last part, specifically what she said. I think she really honed in beautifully on the transformation piece, right? That's what we're here for. So I can't add to that at all. But I think that what I really like is the different perspectives. Is coming in and hearing people who read maybe the same book I did or maybe the same passage of the book I did, and they have a different take on it. And I'm like, whoa, I did not think about it that way. And I find it incredibly fascinating and motivating and interesting, because I could never have thought about it that way. Even if I end up not ultimately like taking that perspective in and making it my own, I still love that I was exposed to that and made me think differently about the world in general. And I honestly think that the only way that we can grow is when we consider what's different than us, right? So the Spiritist group does give us a sense, a safe place to do that in, right? Because everybody's trying to get it right. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to grow and learn. So, and I hope that that's what you do here too. And we know that actually that's what you do here. So we're really excited about that. We want to congratulate the Spirit Society of Chicago's 10th anniversary one more time. We want to invite to keep coming back to get to know more about the Spirit Society of Chicago, who's on the web at a very creative web name, spiritestsocietyofchicago.org. And you can also very creatively find it on Facebook under the Spirit Society of Chicago. But we also want to invite you to get to know, if you are still listening, the Spiritist Conversations, which is what we do here. We have an incredible amount of programs recorded. There might be like 9. And so, or something like that. So stay tuned. And if you have questions, let us know. But keep talking amongst yourselves too. And one more time, congratulations. And we hope to hear from you again soon. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.